Good afternoon to everyone joining us today. I'm Norma Ritz Johnson, Lubbock Chamber Executive Vice President. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a minute. And as we wait for a couple more people to join us from the waiting room, just a reminder to please keep your microphones muted during today's meeting to avoid any feedback or noise interruptions. And as a reminder, remember to show your support for local businesses on social media by using the hashtag #LBKLocalChallenge. This can be for someplace you've ordered a meal from, a local business who's helping out during the crisis in some way, or just a business you support in general, or a business that you miss visiting or miss doing business with during this current situation. Thank you again for joining us for an important update from the Office of the Texas Attorney General. We're glad to be joined by our friend, Amanda Sanders, Outreach Director with the Office of the Attorney General, and I'm going to turn it over to her to run today's program. Amanda, welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you all for joining. We wanted to educate as many people as possible on some very important topics regarding price gouging and scams related to the coronavirus. And today we're going to go through, I have Jennifer Jackson, the head of our Consumer Protection Division here with us. She leads the team of attorneys and investigators who are working to sort through all our complaints and investigate and prosecute those who are taking advantage of Texans during this very vulnerable time. So we're going to go ahead and start today and show how we're responding to the price gouging and scams in light of this disaster, and then things that you can be looking out for and what you can do if you encounter them. So to give you a little background, our office, we're the lawyer for the state of Texas. We file lawsuits on behalf of the state of Texas and the public good. And our Consumer Protection Division is the division that does this on behalf of the public interest. We also seek to educate Texans on how to spot and avoid scams. We also take legal action to enforce state law. We don't represent individual consumers, but some of our legal actions do produce restitution for individual consumers. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over now to Jennifer Jackson, again, head of our Consumer Protection Division, and she's going to go into detail more on the laws and what price gouging is, what kind of scams that their division is seeing, and tips on when you file complaints with our office and a lot of other advice on these issues. Jennifer?
Great. Thank you, Amanda. As Amanda was saying, we are the Consumer Protection Division of the Texas Attorney General's Office, and we have approximately 75 employees in Austin, San Antonio, Pharr, Houston, Dallas, and El Paso. And so the Lubbock area tends to be covered by our Dallas office, although sometimes from our El Paso office as well. But we have attorneys all over the state who are working to make sure that businesses are playing by the rules of the road in this extraordinary time that we're all living in. Generally speaking, the Consumer Protection Division handles a wide variety of cases. Our next slide talks about just a sliver of the types of cases we pursue. In the past, we've done cases about home repair scams, salvage titles, diploma mills, debt collection, drug labeling, unauthorized practice of law. Just about anything you can imagine that involves trade or commerce can potentially fall within the purview of the Consumer Protection Division. Right now, we are very, very busy, as you would imagine, with price gouging scams and price gouging cases and scams and frauds associated with the coronavirus. So briefly, Texas law in this area, we sort of have two key statutes at play right now. The first is the Texas Disaster Act, under which the governor can declare a state of disaster, and our Governor Greg Abbott has done that. That activates my division's price gouging authority under the Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which prevents businesses from taking advantage of a disaster by demanding or charging an exorbitant or excessive price for necessities. That typically includes things like fuel, foods, medicine, or other necessities. These provisions are most typically activated during hurricanes or tornadoes or other natural disasters, but they apply with equal force in the current situation as well. If you look at the next screen, this sort of summarizes the types of cases that the Consumer Protection Division can bring. We're typically looking for deception or fraud in the marketplace, and that's anything that causes confusion or misunderstanding. We're typically looking at where is the lie in the transaction to a consumer, and that helps us figure out whether or not there has been a violation of the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act. Some ways that that comes out includes saying that you are affiliated with or sponsored by someone you're not affiliated or sponsored by. It can mean pretending that you have the approval or connection with a business or a governmental body that you don't, or otherwise trying to trick a consumer into entering into a transaction that they might not normally otherwise enter into. Under the DTPA, we have a couple different kinds of relief that we can obtain. We can get injunctive relief, which tells a business to stop the conduct that's issued. We can get civil penalties of up to $10,000 per violation. And those are fees that are really meant to punish the business for the conduct. We don't seek $10,000 per violation in every case, but that is the cap. If the conduct targets consumers who are over 65 years of age, then there is an additional up to $250,000 penalty available. We take elder protection very seriously, and that's reflected in the statutory penalties available. And we can also obtain restitution or money to go back to consumers who were taken advantage of. And in a lot of our price gouging cases, that is what we're trying to do, is get money back to consumers who were overcharged by someone taking advantage of a disaster declaration. All right, so what is price gouging? It's defined in our statute as taking advantage of a declared disaster by demanding or charging an exorbitant or excessive price for necessary supplies. And in Texas, because the governor and the president have both issued emergency declarations related to the coronavirus, it is now illegal for an individual or a business to charge exorbitant or very high prices for necessities. So that includes cleaning supplies, bath tissue, hand sanitizer, food items like eggs, milk, ground beef, or other items during a statewide disaster. We have gotten, one important point here is that the law does not apply just to businesses who are engaging in retail business. It can apply to individuals as well. We've gotten a lot of complaints about people who have apparently hit their local Costco or Sam's Club and bought up all the toilet paper, especially early on in this crisis, and then start posting it on Facebook Marketplace or their Facebook page or their Instagram account saying, hey, I've got 4,000 rolls of toilet paper, come and get one for $50 a piece. Even individuals like that who are not associated with any kind of business, who are just doing it on their own, that can be price gouging. The statute is very clear that it applies to anyone who tries to take advantage of the disaster. This also applies up the supply chain from retailers. So for example, if a company's prices go up at the retail store, but they are paying their supplier a lot more to get those in the first place, that can be a defense to a price gouging action. And my office is trying very hard to figure out, is it the retailer who's increasing the prices? Is it their supplier who's increasing prices? Is it the producer who's increasing prices? Because anyone in that supply chain can be held liable for price gouging. So how do you report price gouging? If you go to the Texas Attorney General's website, we have a link to a complaint form, and that is the best way to report complaints to us. It gets everything formatted, it helps ensure we have as much information as possible, and someone in my division looks at every single complaint that gets filed. When you are reporting price gouging, the more information you can give us, the more effective we can be in investigating and potentially prosecuting that price gouging. And that's generally true of all of our complaints. The more information you have and can give us, the more effective we can be. But with price gouging in particular, especially with online price gouging, it's really important for you to track down, if you can, the name of the website or the store where you saw the price gouging. Information about the seller, if it's online, including their username and potentially any information you can find about their location. A screenshot or photo of the item, preferably with the price. And any information about the product. For example, I was trying to buy a 24-pack of Charmin at this store on this date, and the price was this much amount of money. If you went ahead and placed an order on a web form or other website, please include a link to where you found the product, any order confirmation or email correspondence that you've had with the seller. Again, it is a lot of information, but the more you can give us, the more likely we are to be able to be effective in our enforcement efforts. So that's a little bit about price gouging. We have had, just by way of background information, I think we have a slide about this later, but I'll talk about it now. We've gotten over 9,000 complaints since the March 13th Governor's disaster declaration, and almost all of those relate to price gouging. We have filed 2 price gouging lawsuits, one against a company called Auctions Unlimited, which was auctioning off large quantities of face masks. And then we filed yesterday against a large egg distributor. I know a lot of people have seen egg prices going up in grocery stores. And as we did our investigation, we're not done yet, but we did notice that this one particular producer or distributor seemed to have a really disproportionate share of the price increases. And because that is now ongoing litigation, I'm not really at liberty to say much more about it, but we are starting to take the legal action that we've been working so hard to prepare for the last 6 weeks. The other part of our COVID efforts are focused on scams. And anytime you've got a national disaster like this, there's a lot of confusion in the world, there's a lot of tension, and people are more vulnerable. And the shysters know that, and they're out in force, which is a problem. So any general advice you've gotten in the past about how to be a smart consumer applies tenfold now. Before you make any purchase, especially from a company you've never encountered before, stop, do some research, and try to make sure it's a valid company. So some of the types of scams we've seen a lot of computer scams, including some pop-up ads. We've seen a lot of telephone and text message scams, especially about the IRS is coming to get you, or we can help you get access to your federal disaster relief payments quicker. Or, boy, you should buy my test for $99.99 and we will get you tested for the coronavirus in your home. A lot of those kinds of scams going around. We're also seeing a lot of door-to-door sales, especially in communities where a lot of our older neighbors live. They'll go door to door and say, oh gosh, I have this test. Wouldn't you like to know right now if you've got the coronavirus or not? Prior to this week, there were no tests approved for in-home use. There's now one test that has been approved by the Federal Drug Administration. But by and large, home test kits have not made it out onto the market yet. And so anything that is a home test kit that's being offered to you is probably not the one that's been approved by the Federal Drug Administration. So again, before you purchase, stop, do some research, and make sure you're buying a legitimate product from a legitimate company. We are also seeing a lot of scams related to treatments, cures, and cleaning products related to the coronavirus. Like I said, the Federal Drug Administration has approved one testing kit for use in the home. And if you want to know more about that, or if you see an offer for one, go to the Federal Drug Administration's website. They've got a whole coronavirus section where you can stay up to date on what has been approved and what has not been approved. There are currently no FDA-approved treatments or cures for the coronavirus, and there is not currently an approved vaccine for the coronavirus. So any offers that you might see for treatments, cures, or vaccines are probably scams. So again, stop, do your research, and before you click buy, make sure you're getting something that has been approved. The Federal Drug Administration has sent a number of warning letters on this, and so has the Federal Trade Commission. My office has done that as well. We're seeing a lot of medical spas where you might go to get Botox or other sort of light medical procedures done that are also offering intravenous vitamin C infusions and other things like that, saying, oh, this can help prevent the coronavirus. There's no evidence to support that, so please don't do that. And if you see, an ad for that, we would like to know about it so we can help protect people from falling for those kinds of scams. We're also seeing, unfortunately, a lot of scams about the Small Business Administration Loans Program and people getting their relief payments from the IRS. The best sources for information about these two programs is from the Small Business Administration website. So you're looking for the smallbusinessadministration.gov and from the irs.gov. Both of those are going to be the best places to get information. If you have a trusted accountant or lawyer, that might also be a good place to get information. But anyone who's reaching out to you spontaneously that you don't know, calling you on your phone, texting, emailing, or otherwise promising assistance with these programs, and you haven't done business with that person before, be very, very, very cautious. I would stop, contact the IRS or the Small Business Administration directly and try to deal with them. I know these governmental bodies are overwhelmed right now with a number of people trying to get in touch, but that really is the safest, best way to get information about these programs. So for the individual relief payments that have been recently enacted by Congress, most people do not need to do anything in order to get that check. If you filed a tax return in 2018 or 2019 and you had your refund direct deposited to your own account, you shouldn't need to do anything in order to get that payment. If you did not file taxes in the last 2 years, or you may be someone who's retired and drawing Social Security income or Social Security disability benefits, you might, and you haven't also filed a tax return in the last 2 years, you might need to file an extra form. And the best way to get information about that is, again, through irs.gov/coronavirus. Again, if you get a spontaneous phone call, text message, or email from someone claiming that they can help you with getting your money, stop. Don't give anyone your personal information or sign up to get your relief check. Don't give out any personal information like Social Security numbers, bank account information, birthdays, anything like that. Also in email, we're seeing reports of a lot of emails coming around where click here to get your government payment. Don't click here. That's probably a spyware scam or some other kind of vicious attack on your computer. And so please just don't click those links. If you do see any of these scams, including one we're seeing now where you're getting a pop-up ad on your computer that says, I've got masks, or I can get you gloves, or please click here to buy hand sanitizer. If it's not a company you've dealt with before, don't click through. We're seeing a lot of scams related to that. But again, if you see a scam, please, please, please report it on our website. Give us details on what the scammer offered you, what they asked of you in order to receive it, and any identifying information you have on the scammer, like their name, their business name, their location, the email, the phone number it came from, etc. And if you have purchased a product through something you feel might be a scam, please send us a copy of the receipt and any correspondence you had with the scammer. That will help us tremendously. So here again are sort of our numbers. We've gotten, I think as of last night, almost 9,300 complaints. We've reached out to about 250 different businesses and individuals about price gouging allegations, and we have several open investigations right now. We've issued over 125 civil investigative demands. These are kind of like subpoenas or basically requests for documents related to the conduct. And we've issued a number of warning letters to companies that we think are making dangerous misrepresentations about what their products can or cannot do in connection with the coronavirus. We talked here a little bit about some of the actions that we've taken. And I will say Resurgence Medical Spa responded immediately to our warning letter and removed all of their advertising relating to the coronavirus. And it was really heartening to see such a quick, thorough response from a company. And then these other two are the lawsuits that we filed related to price gouging allegations. Here is a link to our website where you can file complaints or get general information about scams. One of the things that we are seeing in the marketplace is a lot of the same old scams that we've been seeing circulate for years are popping up with a new coronavirus twist. And some examples of that are, we have seen in the past work from home scams where people say, oh, I've got this great job, you can do it completely from home. Right now with so many people unemployed and so many people stuck at home, that is really, really tempting. And it's hard to tell the legitimate offers from the false offers. And so some of these scams will, you'll go through what looks like a job interview process, and then an offer will be made of, hey, we'd love to hire you. All you need to do is give us your credit card number so we can buy your computer and send it to you. And then the computer never shows up. So that is a classic example of one of the work from home scams that we're seeing. We've also seen, interestingly, a rise in puppy-related scams, where people who are at home think, gosh, this is a great time to get a puppy, and they do some online research and find what looks to be a reputable breeder for, you know, a dog they've always wanted. They spend thousands of dollars to have the dog delivered to their house, and then the puppy's never delivered. And it seems like an odd thing to pop up, but we have gotten a large number of complaints on that in the last week. So again, if anything feels weird about a transaction, especially online, if it sounds too good to be true, stop, check it out, and just think before you purchase. This is a great time to do business with companies you know and love, and avoid sort of unknown companies that are reaching out to you spontaneously. This is what our website looks like, our complaint form. Clicking that red button on the right will get you to our complaint form. And again, that is the best way to get complaints to us. We review every complaint that's been sent in and factor it into our investigations. Another great resource on scams in particular is the Federal Trade Commission. If you Google Federal Trade Commission Consumer Blog, they put out regular updates about the latest crimes and scams that they're seeing related to the coronavirus and ways to avoid falling prey to those scams. So I really recommend that as a great resource. And if you're looking about where to find accurate information about the health aspects, you know, every state, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, is the national organization that is putting out the most up-to-date information. So for national statistics or for the latest information about cleaning, disinfection practices, or other health-related developments, the CDC is really the best spot. In Texas, we have a system where state and local health authorities work together hand in hand with the CDC. The Texas Department of State Health Services, also known as DSHS, has an entire page dedicated to coronavirus in Texas. And that can give you the most up-to-date information about what's going on in our state. And your local county and city officials will likely also have a great website where you can find information about what's going on locally. But for medical information and other information about how the disease is impacting your community, the governmental bodies are really going to have the most reliable information. So check out those resources. And again, to file complaints with our office, here's a website, and we do have a toll-free hotline as well. That hotline takes all kinds of questions, not just consumer-related questions. So please feel free to give us a call if you have seen a scam or think you've seen price gouging, or file a complaint with our website.
And if you are also interested in more educational opportunities, we've spoken on podcasts and done interviews, we've done presentations like this. If you're involved in other organizations that you think could benefit from this type of information, especially if you're involved with senior citizen centers, you can reach out to outreach@oag.texas.gov. That email address will go directly to me, the outreach director, and I'd be happy to set something up for you guys. You can also keep up to date with our latest actions by signing up for our press releases. The website is what you see there, texasattorneygeneral.gov/news. And you can also follow us on Twitter @TXAG. We're also on Instagram, Texas Attorney General, and on Facebook, Texas Attorney General. We're putting out the latest actions that we're involved in. You can read about our lawsuits, opinions that we've issued, and just anything that we're doing on this issue. You can stay up to date with us there.
Thank you so much, Amanda and Jennifer. If y'all have time for just a couple of follow-up questions, I've got a couple that we got in advance, and then I also would invite anyone on the call to put any questions with regard to this subject matter in the Zoom group chat function, and we'll try to look through those. I wanted to just clarify to start with that even if it's not a Texas-based type of situation, a Texas company, or if they're not in Texas, that you believe maybe is price gouging or having some type of an email scam, that's still to be reported to you all. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We are taking a lot of complaints from Texans who have been scammed by companies who are not located in Texas. And we have partnerships with other states and with federal enforcement agencies. So if we're not the right agency for that, we're doing our best to pass it along to the right entity. But anyone in Texas who has received a fraudulent scam or who's been price gouged, we have the authority to enforce on that. So please do report it anyway, even if it's not a Texas-based company or individual.
Okay. And then another question that I have, and you had a slide on how to, what kind of information to capture to be able to pass on to you all via your email or your hotline. What is the best way to capture information, or talk a little bit about telemarketing scams when the phone rings? What should the person that answers the phone be trying to capture whatever information that they can from that caller, or just a phone number, which in a lot of cases probably isn't the accurate phone number? What is the best way to deal with the telemarketing type scams on the telephone?
That is a terrific question. One of the most important pieces of information is whatever phone number shows up on your caller ID. In some cases, we're able to trace that back and figure out who owns that phone number. One of the tricky parts of this is a lot of those phone calls come from overseas, and a lot of our visibility into who owns that number and a lot of our ability to enforce depends on whether or not they're in the US. But the phone number that it comes in from is probably the best. And then if you can keep track a little bit, just scribble down a couple notes, what is it that's being offered? What is it about it that seems off to you? And any details you can capture or remember about the price that's being offered, and anything else they say that really sticks out in your mind. The more we know about what they're hawking and how they're doing it, what they're trying to collect from you, is helpful. We do not recommend engaging with them, so don't lure them along thinking you're going to catch them and get all their information. I would recommend trying to get off the phone as quickly as possible, if that means just hanging up. But that phone number is really sort of the most concrete link we have to find the scammer.
Okay. And then what is your relationship or interaction with the Better Business Bureau? When should someone contact you versus contacting the Better Business Bureau?
That is another great question. We are in regular communication with Better Business Bureaus all over the state. In fact, we've been in touch with folks from the Amarillo and Lubbock Better Business Bureaus in this COVID crisis. Each of our regional offices meets regularly with Better Business Bureau officials. And so we really do share information as much as we can. If they see something where they're getting a lot of complaints, they'll typically reach out to us and we'll compare notes and see if it's something we need to start moving on. And we do the same. If we feel like we should be seeing complaints on something, but we're not, a lot of times we will reach out to the Better Business Bureau counterparts and sort of see what's going on their end. And we have similar relationships with the Federal Trade Commission because sometimes they get complaints about nationwide scams that aren't necessarily filtering into Texas. But we love working with our Better Business Bureau partners, and we really, really value that.
Great. And then finally, how should someone know or be able to tell if a price of a product is moving just because it's the market moving it, like we all see from time to time, whether it's meat, whether it's fuel, we see a wide range of prices there, versus maybe something that is an actual price gouging situation?
That is a really good question. And typically it's easier to see. Like in Hurricane Harvey, you could tell when you drove by a gas station and they were trying to charge $7, $8, $9, $10 a gallon, that ain't right. It's a lot harder right now because so many supply chains are disrupted. Everybody's trying to get their hands on those N95 masks, from me and my family in Austin to the federal government, as well as international people. So markets are really disrupted right now, and that does complicate figuring out what is price gouging or not. If you see a price for something that you've purchased in the past and it just looks like an outrageous leap, go ahead and report it to us. Because we are trying to dig with each company up the supply. If they're saying and producing invoices saying, no, this is what I paid for it and I did just my normal markup, then that's not price gouging, because they're not trying to take advantage of the disaster by increasing their prices. So we are trying to sort of trace that back, but it is a difficult thing for consumers to do because you can't very well be in the checkout line at HEB saying, tell me exactly what Lysol charged you for these wipes. That's just not a practical thing for consumers to do themselves. That's part of why we're so interested in getting complaints from folks about what they're seeing in the marketplace.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Zoom because it was such an informative presentation. You all do see the email address, the website address, and the hotline that are there accessible for you if you do need to reach someone in the Attorney General's office. Thanks so much to the two of you for joining us today and to what your office is doing to ensure that that we're taken care of from that standpoint. We want to be respectful of your time. And so I want to, before we leave today, I want to remind everyone that through this COVID-19 situation, we know that there are a lot of displaced workers out there that are seeking jobs, as well as small businesses looking for ways to recover. I want to remind you all that we recently launched the community website, a central point for small business recovery and jobs resources. You can go and visit inthistogetherlbk.com. Please be sure to refer that to any small business people that are needing some help, as well as anyone that is a displaced worker that's looking for a job. We encourage you to visit that page. Thanks again to Amanda and Jennifer from the Attorney General's office. And thanks to all of you. Have a great weekend, and God bless Texas. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
you.